I'm Kamali, taking you through the stories people are talking about and sharing around the world on Newsfeed today. A woman in Sudan faces the death penalty for killing her husband, who she says was abusing her. We'll speak to someone who's part of the campaign to stop her execution. Azealia Banks does not like Israel. We'll tell you more about the rapper's latest Twitter rant. And the sugar crash blocking one of Poland's highways. And top of our newsfeed, hashtag justice for Noura. She's a 19-year-old Sudanese woman who's been convicted of murder and sentenced to death. Now, she was married off to a cousin at the age of 16. She refused and ran away. She stayed away for 3 years until she says she was tricked into going at home. At that point, her husband wanted to consummate the marriage. She says he raped her. The next day, according to her lawyer, he assaulted her again, so she stabbed him 3 times. Well, someone leading the campaign to try and have her not face execution joins us now from Virginia in the United States. Good to speak with you. Now, just tell us the very latest, please, from court.
So the very latest, we don't have any official confirmation, but there has been on social media talk of that she has been sentenced to death. So that is, the sentencing has been decided. So we have a few things that we can do to move forward from here. So that's the latest we've heard. We're still waiting to confirm it. And once we do have it confirmed from our legal team, we will share with everyone.
So they maintained the sentence, of course, because as I said, she had been sentenced before. The social media campaign is ongoing. What kind of pressure can actually be put on the Sudanese judiciary to listen to you guys for some kind of clemency?
So just raising awareness and raising attention really helps in not only gaining the attention of the Sudanese judiciary. It's actually much more global than that. We can get the attention of international aid organizations, humanitarian aid organizations, because this 15-day period right now is pivotal for the appeal preparation, and we can use all the help we can get, and the most help we'll get will be from those big organizations who do have that kind of pressure and that kind of clout to influence the Sudanese government and hopefully influence other governments around the world to, you know, be more humane in their judiciary acts. And that's the goal of this overall campaign, is to make sure that Noura is just the first one. She's not the last one.
Absolutely. Wafa, just give us a bit more of the background to Noura's story, if you can. I explained a bit of it at the beginning, but she was married off when she was 16 and ran away to live with her aunt. Just take it up from there.
Okay, so she was married when she was 16, and to kind of escape that idea, she decided that she would go live with her aunt in Sinnar, which is about 250 kilometers away from where her family is. So she did that, continued her education, continued her schooling, and about 3 years later after the fact, so this was in 2017, her father had reached out to her and told her, you know, the coast is clear, we're no longer going to be marrying you off, the wedding is off, come back and return with your family. So under that impression, she did. She returned home and walked into and found that that wasn't the case. And that's what led to the series of events. That's what happened when she was married, given away to this man, and then he attempted to consummate the marriage, recruited the help of relatives to hold her down while he proceeded to rape her. And then the next day, he did the same thing, but he was just by himself this time, and Noura, acting in self-defense, stabbed him and ended up killing him. So right now, that's where the sentencing came from. That's where all of this action came from. People are wondering why, if this happened in 2017, why are we just now hearing about it? The main reason for that is because the legal process takes such a long time to generate facts and information and to really just be as clear as possible. There's still a lot of gaps in the story that we're working diligently to fill, and that's what took the defense and the offense so long and the prosecution so long to prepare for the trial. So that is what happened with the case. That's the background. We were awaiting the sentencing, hoping for different scenarios, but since it's this scenario now, we do have the 15-day turnaround period. Well, it's not confirmed that it's this scenario now, but once it is, we'll be able to proceed a little bit differently.
Well,
fact sheet. Yes.
No, finish. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'm just was going to say we will, of course, stay in touch with you over the next few days and, of course, bring our viewers more on this Justice for Noura campaign. Thank you for your time. Now, there have been some brilliant new revelations in the President Trump adult film star must-see reality show. All thanks to my favourite lawyer, the stroke realtor, stroke fixer, stroke special counsel informant, this guy, Michael Cohen. Now, just a quick recap. He paid $130,000 to keep a woman who claimed she'd had an affair with President Trump quiet in the weeks before Trump was elected. Now, this Michael Avenatti, who was representing the woman, her name is Stephanie Clifford / Stormy Daniels, has published documents showing the company set up to pay Ms. Clifford was given millions of dollars from a bunch of sources. Now, it was given $1.2 million from the pharmaceutical firm Novartis, $600,000 from AT&T, and $500,000 from a company called Columbus Nova, linked to the Russian oligarch called Viktor Vekselberg. Now, where all this cash is now and what it was used for will be right at the centre of the ongoing special counsel investigation led by that man, Robert Mueller. Now, Israel is racist, not my words, I've never been, but the words and tweets of the musician Azealia Banks. This after she made a real public point of going to Israel, despite calls for her not to go as part of the boycott, divestment and sanctions movement. She said she didn't want to let her fans down, but now she says she's not going to the countries ever again because it's racist. Here are some of her tweets. In this one, she recounts how a rabbi asked if she'd have sex with her for money. In this one, she says an older Jewish lady shouted at her while she was trying to stow her bags in the overhead bins, and she added, "Why are people like this? I don't understand the amount of times I've been purposefully coughed on, stepped on, cut in line, it's too much." And to finish it all off, she says, "You want to bet these racists at the airline lost my bag on purpose?" Well, Haaretz is reporting that the Israeli airport authorities say that Ms. Banks has been treated like every other tourist to Israel. Nice. Now, Monica Lewinsky, who had an affair with the former President Bill Clinton, has been uninvited to a party because Mr. Clinton was going to be there. She tweeted, "Dear world, please don't invite me to an event, especially one about social change. And then, after I've accepted, uninvite me because Bill Clinton and then decided to attend. It's 2018. Now, I can just imagine Bill saying, "I'm not going to that party with that woman, Miss Lewinsky." And if you don't get that reference, sorry. Let's tell you some other stories that are happening around the world this Thursday. Now, remember that time Kanye West made a fool of himself? No, not last week or the week before, but back in 2009 when he stormed the stage at the Grammys and said Taylor Swift shouldn't have won. Well, now, Taylor, who basically squashed the beef, decided to reignite it during her show in Arizona last night. The Kardashian Wests called her a snake, and she said she wanted to send a message that if someone calls you a nasty name on social media and people jump on it, it doesn't have to defeat you, it can strengthen you. She then made some huge snakes appear with her on stage. And while there's no use crying over spilt milk, spilt chocolate is quite another matter. In Poland, emergency workers faced a sticky situation after a truck overturned, spilling 12 tons of melted chocolate. You could say it was a bit of a sugar crash. Now, no one was injured, but it did shut down the highway, leaving some drivers choco-late. Now, you'll have heard that Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un are going to meet in Singapore, which had me wondering why. Well, the official answer is because of its neutrality and infrastructure, but I asked my colleague who's from Singapore, and she says that people there speculate it's due to the fact that there is a North Korean embassy in the city-state, and more interestingly, apparently, Kim's plane only has an 8-hour flight time, so anywhere else will be too far or too political. So, Singapore, here they come. And the prelude to that meeting was the historic occasion when Kim Jong-un and Moon Jae-in shook hands across the 38th parallel in Korea. And that moment sparked an unusual trend in Korea as people have been heading to a film set near Seoul to recreate the moment. And thanks to social media, we have loads of video. Have a look at this.
손잡을 때 진짜 느낌이 어땠을지 궁금했는데 여기 와서 좀 더 궁금증이 해결된 것 같아요.
북쪽이다 남쪽이다 갈라져 있을 게 아니라 다 합치면 좋지 뭐. 나는 그래요. 같이 합쳐서 살면 좋을 것 같아요.
Now, a tiny island in the Pacific is still owned by the French after it was claimed by Napoleon III in 1853. He was the nephew of that Napoleon Bonaparte who tried to claim most of the world. Now, New Caledonia is fighting for its independence. Here's Tamina.
New Caledonia, the island that's the perfect destination for holidays. But beyond the clear waters and honeymooners, this French territory is fighting for its independence. New Caledonia is closer to Australia than it is to France. It sits in the Pacific Ocean, 1,200 kilometres off the coast of Australia. Napoleon claimed the island for the French in 1853. Later this year, the island will vote on whether to split from the French. French President Emmanuel Macron recently visited the territory in what may have been an attempt to ensure New Caledonia would stay with France. It's one of the richest countries in the Pacific region and has 25% of the world's nickel reserves. But that wealth doesn't come without its problems. The island has issues with high unemployment, a failing education system, crime and alcoholism. Around 40% of New Caledonia's population of around 270,000 are Indigenous Kanak, and around 30% are of European origin. Ethnic tensions between the two have been ongoing for decades. The Indigenous populations say they face social and economic disadvantages. The Kanak population is widely seen to be pro-independence, while those of European origin are more in favour of remaining with France. New Caledonia is largely self-governing, but Paris retains powers in areas like defence, foreign affairs, currency and law and order. New Caledonia is an important part of France's overseas holdings that stretches from the Caribbean to the Indian Ocean and the northeast coast of Canada. Macron has expressed mounting fears about Beijing's expansion in the region.
In this region of the world, China is building its hegemony step by step. It's not about fear-mongering, but about looking at reality.
China's economic dominance and territorial claims in the South China Sea worry Western powers. Take Vanuatu, 335 miles north of New Caledonia. Chinese funding paid for a wharf capable of handling large warships, sparking concerns about China's military presence. Recent polls show a majority of people are against breaking with France. But if the result is positive, it will be the first territory since Vanuatu in 1980 to break away from France. So will New Caledonia break away from France? And if it does, will China grab a slice of the pie?
All right, let's take you to India now. And while we usually bring you grim crime stories, this one will hopefully make you laugh. Here's Nia.
Just when you thought this week's news cycle was all doom and gloom, here's a story that's quite literally out of this world, a story that could rival the X-Files, but in this case, something that played out in New Delhi, where a father and son tried to dupe a Delhi-based businessman out of $200,000 by claiming that they had technology that he could eventually sell to NASA. And as you can imagine, Twitter in India is having a field day with this particular story. Let's start with Bhavtosh Singh. He's put up this video of the Delhi crime branch arresting the men wearing these very bizarre looking spacesuits. And he says the crime branch, it looks like, has averted a Martian attack. You've got Kabir Taneja claiming that what these two men were wearing looked more appropriate for the red carpet at the Met Gala this year. You've got Mrs. Palakaran saying, very curious about one thing. Why did they think they had to dress up like a low-budget, C-grade Bollywood movies spaceman to show that they actually had access to a NASA project? Maurya saying, and now comes the footage of these two great souls, the saviors of humanity, he says, Earth's last line of defense when the aliens attack. And this tweet by Neeraj Chauhan quite possibly summing up this entire debacle. He's saying even Thanos is scared of these two men who were arrested by the Delhi police's special cell. And that really tells you how bizarre this entire episode has been.
I love that tweet about Thanos. Now, in today's Animals Doing Stuff, it's this baby deer who's such a bad swimmer, a human animal, had to go and rescue it. As you can see, the deer got into a bit of danger in a lake in Texas. We've all been there, swum out too far, and been too tired to come back. Now, the deer was rescued by that guy. Both man and deer survived, thankfully. I can tell you it was a successful rescue. But in the end, as you can see, the deer was so tired. Let's take a little lie down. That's all for the Newsfeed team. Reach out to us with your questions, comments, complaints and suggestions. I'm at Kamali Melbourne. You'll find us 24/7 on Twitter, YouTube and Facebook. Follow, subscribe and add. See you again tomorrow.